Everyone is telling you to invest. Your coworker, that finance guy on YouTube, your cousin who just discovered index funds and won't stop talking about them. Even the algorithm knows. It keeps throwing investing content at you like it's trying to tell you something. And you sit there, you do the math, you look at your bank account, and after rent, after groceries, after the phone bill and the electric bill and that one subscription you forgot to cancel, you have maybe $200 left. $200. That's it. And the internet says, invest it. Hi, I'm Dave. I've spent years studying how money actually works. Not the highlight reel version, not the I turned $50 into $1 million story, but the real mechanics underneath. And today, I want to talk to you about something nobody seems willing to say out loud. Because here's the truth most finance content skips over. The advice to invest was never designed for the person with $200 left. It was designed for someone who already solved a different problem first. And if nobody told you what that problem is, the advice is not just useless, it might actually be hurting you. Let's start at the beginning. There are two completely different financial worlds that most people live in without realizing it. Behavioral economist Sendhil Mullainathan at Harvard calls this the difference between abundance and scarcity. And what he found in years of research documented in his book, Scarcity, Why Having Too Little Means So Much, changes everything about how you should think about money. When you live with scarcity, your brain doesn't work the same way. It tunnels. It hyper-focuses on the immediate problem, this bill, this week, this dollar, and it literally loses the cognitive bandwidth to plan long-term. It's not a personality flaw. It's not laziness. It's a neurological response to pressure. Mullainathan showed that when people are worried about money, they lose cognitive capacity equivalent to losing 13 IQ points. That's the same as missing an entire night of sleep. So when you're staring at $200 and someone says invest for the future, your brain is not equipped to process that correctly, not because you're bad at money, but because the pressure of not enough short-circuits the very wiring you'd need to think about more. That's the first thing you need to understand. Now, here's the second. Most financial advice is built on one hidden assumption, that your income is stable. That next month looks like this month, that the emergency that wipes you out hasn't happened yet, and that when it does, you'll have somewhere to fall. This assumption is so baked into mainstream investing advice that it's basically invisible. Analysts just assume it's there. But for a huge portion of people, that assumption is wrong. Here's what the data says. According to the Federal Reserve's 2023 report on the economic well-being of U.S. households, nearly 40% of Americans could not cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing money or selling something. 40%. Not outliers, not rare cases, almost half the country. So what happens when you take $200, money you've scraped together, and you put it into an index fund? You feel good for maybe a week. Then the car makes a noise, or the dentist sends a bill, or your hours get cut, and you pull it out, possibly at a loss. And now you've paid taxes or fees on top of it, and you're right back where you started. Except now you also feel like a failure, because you tried the thing everyone said to do, and it didn't work. This is the cycle, and it's not your fault. The advice was wrong for the situation. So what do you actually do with $200? Here's what the research says, and this is where it gets interesting. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2017, spent his career studying one core problem. Why do people make financial decisions that seem irrational? And one of his most powerful findings is the concept of mental accounting. Humans don't treat all money the same. Money in different mental buckets gets treated differently, spent differently, protected differently. When people create a dedicated, labeled emergency fund, even a small one, they're dramatically less likely to rate it for non-emergencies. It's psychology. The label changes behavior. The bucket matters. So, before anything, before the index fund, before the brokerage account, before anyone's investing advice, you need one thing: a stability floor. Think of it like this. Your financial life is a building. Investing is the upper floors. It's where the growth happens. It's where your money eventually starts working harder than you do. But you cannot build upper floors on sand. You need a foundation. And for most people with $200 left, the foundation is not there yet. The stability floor has 3 components, and each one changes what you should do next. The first component is a starter emergency fund, not 3 months of expenses, not 6 months, just $1,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account, not touched for anything except a genuine emergency. That number is not arbitrary. Research from the Urban Institute found that families with even $500 to $2,000 in liquid savings were dramatically better at recovering from financial shocks and dramatically less likely to spiral into debt than families with nothing. $1,000 is your parachute. It doesn't make you rich. It keeps you from falling through the floor every time something goes wrong. If you have $200 and no emergency fund, that $200 goes there, not to the market. The second component is high-interest debt elimination. If you carry credit card debt at 20 or 25% interest, every dollar you put into the stock market is a losing trade automatically. The market historically averages somewhere around 7 to 10% annually over the long run. Credit card interest charges you 22% every single year. That math is simple. Paying off high-interest debt is a guaranteed return that no investment can match. This is not depressing. In fact, this is the best investment you can make. It just doesn't feel like one because there's no app for it, no ticker symbol, no green bar going up. But the return is real. The third component is income stability. And this one is the most uncomfortable to say out loud. If your income is unpredictable, freelance, gig work, irregular hours, a job that feels shaky, then before you invest a dollar, your energy should go towards stabilizing the machine that generates money in the first place. That might mean building one more income stream. It might mean upskilling. It might mean taking a second look at whether the job you're in can actually support the future you're trying to build. Morgan Housel, author of The Psychology of Money, puts it this way. Your ability to earn is the most powerful financial asset you own. Most people ignore it entirely because it doesn't show up on a balance sheet. Now, and this is the part where it shifts. Once those 3 things are in place, even partially, something changes. The same $200 that felt like a patch on a leaking boat, it becomes a real seed. Because here's what compounding actually does. It's not magic. It's just math running long enough to look like magic. If you invest $200 a month starting at 25 years old into a low-cost index fund that tracks the S&P 500, you don't just have what you put in, you have what it earns and what the earnings earn and what those earnings earn. By the time you're 65, that $200 a month, $2,400 a year, becomes somewhere in the range of $500,000 to $600,000 depending on market returns. $200 a month, that is it. That is not a fantasy. That is arithmetic. But, and this is the part they skip, it only works if you don't pull it out. And you only don't pull it out if you have something else to fall back on, which brings you right back to the stability floor. The sequence matters more than the amount. So let's talk about the actual steps, because this doesn't need to be complicated. Step 1. Open a high-yield savings account, not a regular bank savings account paying you 0.01%. A high-yield account through Marcus, Ally, SoFi, or similar, currently paying somewhere around 4 to 5% annually. Put your first chunk of that $200 here until you hit $1,000. Step 2. If you carry high-interest debt, split your $200. Put some toward the emergency fund, put the rest toward the highest interest debt you have. The split doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to exist. Step 3, once the emergency fund is solid and the worst debt is gone, open a Roth IRA. Not a regular brokerage account, a Roth IRA, because the money you put in grows completely tax-free. You've already paid taxes on it when you earned it, so when you pull it out in retirement, it's yours. All of it, no cut for the government. For low to middle income earners, this is one of the best legal wealth building tools that exists, and you can open one with as little as $1 at Fidelity or Vanguard. Step 4, inside your Roth IRA, don't pick stocks, not yet. Buy one thing, a total market index fund. Fidelity has FZROX with 0 expense ratio. Vanguard has VTSAX. You are now invested in thousands of companies at once for almost nothing in fees, and you are done making decisions. Set up automatic contributions. Forget about it for 20 years. That's the whole plan. No complicated strategy, no stock picking, no watching charts. You pick the fund once, you automate the contributions, you leave it alone. There is one more thing to address because you're probably thinking it. What about inflation? What about the economy? What if the market crashes right after I invest? Here's what the data shows. JP Morgan Asset Management did a study looking at the cost of trying to time the market, of waiting for the right moment to invest. They found that if you missed just the 10 best trading days in the market over a 20-year period, your returns were cut nearly in half. The 10 best days out of roughly 5,000 trading days. If you missed 20 of the best days, your returns were almost completely wiped out. The lesson is not that the market always goes up. It doesn't. The lesson is that nobody, not professionals, not algorithms, not the guy with 3 finance degrees, can reliably predict which 10 days those will be. So the best strategy for almost everyone is also the simplest one. Get in, stay in, and stop watching it. Time in the market beats timing the market. Every time.
Now, I want to bring this back to something personal. You started this video feeling like $200 wasn't enough, like you were already behind, like the game was designed for people who started with more. And honestly, that feeling is not entirely wrong. The financial system was built with certain assumptions baked in. The advice was written for people who started with stability. The books and the YouTube videos and the podcasts, most of them come from people who already had the floor. They're telling you how to build the upper floors without noticing that for millions of people, the floor still needs to come first. But here's what Mullainathan's research also showed. The scarcity trap is real, but it has an exit. And the exit is not a windfall. It's not a lucky investment. It's not waiting until you have more money. The exit is building a buffer, even a small one, even a slow one. Because the moment you have a small cushion between you and the next emergency, your brain physically starts to work differently. The tunnel widens. You can see further. You can plan. That is the real first investment, the one nobody talks about, the one that makes every other investment possible. $200 and nowhere to start is not a dead end. It's just a different beginning than the one they told you about. Everyone is telling you to invest, and they're not wrong, but now you know what to invest in first and why the sequence changes everything. Start there. The market will wait.